Since 1983, FAME has helped business and education work for Maine. Contact the authority, the Finance Authority of Maine. You're watching Mainebiz Sunday, Maine's business news source.
Home sales in Maine are on the rise, jumping 14% in February, but the median sale prices are flat. Are we finally recovering from the implosion of the real estate market? Are there more foreclosures on the horizon? With us today to talk about home sales and what to expect from the real estate market in 2010 is Sheryl Gregory, a broker at Homestead Realty in Winthrop and a past president of the Maine Association of Realtors, and Chris Pinkham, president of the Maine Association of Community Banks. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, we were talking before we started. This is the housing market is such an important part to the overall economy of Maine, and especially as in the recent recession that we're coming out of, hopefully, that we periodically have to keep checking back in. It's one of those things you got to keep taking the pulse of that every few months to see where we are. So here we are taking the pulse. So let's start, Sheryl, with you. So home sales year to year are up 14% in February, but prices are flat. Stayed about that median price of $158,000 from last February to this February. What does that mean?
Well, the number of houses that have sold are more, but the price is going to show a little bit flat because of the fact there have been more first-time home buyers out buying. And so if you're going to take a median price, you're not going to have the high ones to offset it to keep the price up there. Okay. But where our sales have increased, they've been delightful. And the pulse is going and blood is flowing, but in the veins not.
Were you guys surprised by the 14%, the increase at this rate?
Surprised until I thought about it was comparing to a year ago, and things were so difficult a year ago that it's important that we've actually seen that movement upwards, but that was a big jump on a percentage basis.
Okay. Would you still call this a buyer's market? Are we in the, is it still a buyer's market, or are the sellers finally starting to?
No, it's still a buyer's market because of inventory. There's still a large amount of inventory. Now, in some segments of the market, it's definitely a seller's market. There are price ranges that are pretty much gone, and so that's going to make it so that the buyers have to be a little bit more careful. And because the sellers have been watching the market for so long, the people who are coming on the market now are coming on properly priced. So it's the buyer isn't going to go in and simply say, oh, you put your house on the market, it must be worth $50,000 less. That's not the case.
What are lenders saying?
Well, you need to remember, keep in perspective, we're at historic lows for interest rates. That's a huge incentive for a lot of people to think about this is the right time to make that move. I think I've just come back from a tour of the northern eastern part of the state, and all lenders across the board seem slightly enthusiastic about the spring. They're seeing more applications, they're seeing more quality applicants coming in, and I think they're finding out that there's a lot of buzz out there about the possibility. One even reported that they were talking to some contractors about some small developments, and I think that's a significant change from last fall. I don't think it means we're simply out of this, but it does mean that there are people who are talking about moving forward, upbeat, positive.
And moving on with their lives again. Everyone kind of came to a halt last year because they just didn't know what was going on. And they were worried about jobs, and they were worried about interest rates, and they were worried about everything, and what was the government going to do. And so rather than make a decision and make it be wrong, they did nothing. So finally someone has said, wait a minute, we need a place to live, we need to do this, we need to adjust our lifestyle, and they're back into the market.
So in terms of kind of that recovery period for the recession, you're seeing this on the housing side of it, this is a green shoot, I guess you can say. We're starting to see some of that. Will you go as that far as to say that?
I would. They're not everywhere.
You know,
we'll
talk about that. We'll talk about geography.
There are some geographical issues in the state, and I think it varies a lot by the density of the population and also where values were before we had this downturn. I think the important thing is to keep in perspective with all of the enthusiasm is that we also hear people who have entered foreclosure and are having difficulty making their payments. That's a factor that will, I think, create some speed bumps along the way. This will not be a nice smooth line for recovery.
I'm going to talk about that in a second, but I wanted to follow up on that kind of the range of pricing and activity that's so different around this state. I think there are different parts of the state. For example, Franklin County saw a 95% increase in home sales between February of 2009-2010, and Lincoln County only saw a 2% increase. How do you explain that wide difference?
Part of what you're going to see Lincoln County and also you'll see it a little bit in Knox County is you're talking some coastal communities. And the demand for the coastal properties are less than the places like Farmington where people are living and working and going about their daily lives. So you have a different market as far as, where are people working, what are they doing, what is their housing for? Are they dealing just with second homes, or are they dealing with, this is where we live, this is what we do?
So it's that kind of first-time buyer again getting back in, and that's driving some of those numbers, whereas the coastal may be second homes or...
Maybe some second homes there that are pulling it down a little bit.
And folks not buying that retirement home because they're waiting for the
Not
stocks
yet.
maybe to come back?
Not yet.
Yeah. Okay.
Or they live in Mid-Atlantic and can't get here.
Right.
They got
Exactly.
hammered this year.
That's right. That's exactly
And you
right.
also have the mix of where the unemployment has increased quite a bit, and I think in those pockets there has been a slowdown in sales. One, because people are hesitant about making a move, waiting to see how their own employment is. And for people who are used to overtime and no longer have that, or have to have two jobs, I think that has slowed down that market.
Right.
So that might be something that you could look at in terms of different markets.
Foreclosures, let's talk about that. The Bureau of Financial Institutions Superintendent Lloyd LaFountain announced the fourth quarter 2009 data submitted by the Maine Charter Banks and Credit Unions shows a continuing increase in home foreclosures in Maine, but at the same time, the number of new first mortgage loans initiated was up 56% year over year. LaFountain said, quote, "The increase in the new first mortgage loans during 2009 is encouraging and welcome news. At the same time, we continue to see a modest increase in foreclosure activity." What does that mean? Where you have foreclosures, is it rising much or slightly, or what does that mean for Maine?
To put it in perspective,
Yes.
When the superintendent did his survey, it was only of Maine chartered institutions. That might represent 20 or 25% of the actual lending community in the state. They hold about 85,000 mortgages, and last year they only did 175 complete foreclosures.
Okay.
So the percentage is very low.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that if this point in time you're behind on your mortgage, you don't feel as if you're part of a much larger number. I think the number that helps is that we're seeing everyone go up, every financial institution. There are 32 retail institutions in the state of Maine. They all have increased delinquencies. But in many ways they're able to modify or work with borrowers depending on their own situation. And it's also given them, I think, some opportunity to help people restructure their own financial situations.
Okay. Go ahead, please,
We're seeing a number of people that were calling last year and we're saying, I need to put my house on the market, I'm going to be underwater soon, and I need to do something. And if they took a step back and took a breath and contacted their lender, especially if it was a Maine bank, they had a good shot at being able to alter their payments, do something. Any of the Maine housing loans, for example, they have an excellent department that's doing workouts, and their foreclosure rate is very small in comparison to everything else.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about that, kind of the programs for foreclosures in the afterthought segment. But I want to close with a quick question, just a quick answer. The first-time homebuyer incentive, how crucial was that for the kind of the increase we're seeing, and will that be extended?
No, it will not be extended.
Okay.
Everything in my world that I live in and breathe in says no, don't count on it. Stop thinking about it.
It increased the chatter about buying a home. It did great things. It actually did start to move the market, and I think we've enjoyed that bump, and now we're hoping that there are real things in the market that will take care of it.
Take care of it without the incentive. Okay, great, good to hear. Stick around. We're going to keep you around for the afterthought segment.
Thank you.
Thanks. You can watch more of this discussion in our exclusive afterthought segment seen only on the web. Go to mainebiz.biz and click on the Mainebiz Sunday link. We'll be right back.
Mainebiz Sunday is made possible in part by funding provided by the Finance Authority of Maine.